Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Quick. I'm the Health and Social Services Manager at Mariposa Community Health Center, and I'm here to talk about domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we have a wonderful candlelight vigil that's going to happen at the end of this month. And I wanted to take the time though to talk about what domestic violence is and some of the resources in our community. So domestic violence, a lot of times when people hear that term, they think of physical violence. They think of a husband and wife, and the husband is hitting the wife or doing something of that nature. But domestic violence is really a much bigger issue and concept. It's people that are in this relationship, so they could be dating, we call it dating violence. They can be married. It can be within a household, so between family members, and anyone can be the victim or the abuser, right? So typically, and according to statistics, we do see more often times where men are the abuser and women are the victims. So a lot of times when we hear about domestic violence, we hear that women are the victims and men are the abusers, but that's not always the case. So I just wanted to kind of preface that. But domestic violence is really this power imbalance within this relationship. One person is putting more power and control over the other. And it doesn't have to be just physical violence. That's one form of violence that can happen, but it doesn't need to be present in order for it to be domestic violence. So other things can be like emotional abuse. That is when one person is attacking who that other person is. They're putting them down, they're blaming them, they're calling them names, they're making them feel worthless or useless, right? So it's attacking that person emotionally. Another way can be through financial abuse. That is something that's quite common. So that is withholding money from their partner. So maybe giving their partner like an allowance, or not letting them have access to the bank accounts, or putting, all the assets into the abuser's name so that way they own everything, or putting all the assets in the victim's name so that way they incur all the debt, right? So there's this power imbalance that's happening. Financial abuse can also be misusing money. So using all of the money in the home so that way there's no money that's being used for the children, for the bills, for the groceries, things of that nature. Another type of abuse or tactic is isolation. And that is something that we see quite often as well. So with isolation, that abusive partner is starting to break those relationships that victim would have with their friends and family. And that could look like making that person move away from friends and family, so like actual physical isolation, getting away from them. Not letting that partner leave the house, monitoring who they're with, causing fights, feeding in some sort of manipulation, saying, well, you shouldn't be talking to your mom that often, you shouldn't be talking to your sisters, etc. So there's this source of isolation, and that's done so that way that victim can't reach out for help. So that way that violence stays hidden. That way they're more vulnerable to the control and manipulation of that abusive partner. Another tactic is using children. Threatening that, if you leave me, I will make sure that you never see the kids again. I won't pay child support. I will have custody and you won't be able to have custody with shared custody or anything like that. Threatening, any of these court or legal actions. Using children, if you do something, if you leave me, I'll hurt them. Or having children report back anything that's happening. Who is mom or dad talking to? What's going on? So there's a lot of stuff that can happen with domestic violence, and I'm just barely touching the surface. Physical violence, like I've mentioned, is one tactic. So that could be pushing, grabbing hair, breaking things, punching holes in the wall, not letting someone leave. If you're in the car, not dropping them off like you said you would, and you're holding them, hostage in the car. So there's just quite a few different ways that physical violence can look like besides just hitting and kicking. Strangulation is another thing. That's when someone is putting their hands or a body part or an item on someone's airway and not letting them be able to breathe. That is something else that happens. And I know a lot of this is a very heavy topic and can be hard to hear. And it's hard to hear because it's so common. 1 in 4 women and about 1 in 7 men experience domestic violence. And 1 in 15 children are directly exposed to domestic violence. So this is something that's very common. So either yourself, if you're watching this right now, a family member, a friend, a coworker, we know someone who is impacted by domestic violence. And it is an issue that is really held in secret. People don't want to admit it, right? That this is going on. It's hard to admit if you've been going through this because there's so much stigma, shame, and judgment that's placed on victims. Most people will say, well, why didn't you just leave? How could you let someone do this to you? If I were you, I would have left. I would never let someone treat me this way. But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes within this relationship that it's really hard, just to make that decision. People need help, they need a plan, they need that support system. And people can get that from friends and family, but not everyone has friends and family that can be that support system. Advocates, like from my team at Mariposa Clinic, we have advocates. We provide a lot of that support system, that guidance, and that safety planning for victims as they're navigating whether or not they want to leave that relationship or the aftermath of leaving that relationship. Domestic violence, like I said, it's something that happens in people's homes, but the ripple effects impacts the entire community. So it's impacting people in their workplace, it's impacting children in school. Kids, it's hard for them to focus on homework, it's hard for them to go to all these awesome activities that the schools offer if there's a lot of issues happening in the home sometimes, right? So kids are going through a lot emotionally when they witness domestic violence in the home. And sometimes domestic violence is normalized. Sometimes this is something that's happened a lot in families for generations. We've seen domestic violence, but we've never identified it as domestic violence. We've just thought, well, that's just how things are. But violence shouldn't be normal. It shouldn't be part of what people are experiencing on a day-to-day. Your home should be a safe place for you, for your children. And we know that that's not always the case, but if you yourself are thinking, I think I'm in a domestic violence situation, or I just know that things are not right, just know that you're not alone. You're not the only one. This is common, and help is available. This doesn't have to be a permanent situation. We completely understand how overwhelming, how scary, how difficult these situations can be, and getting out of them, getting out that next step can be quite large and quite scary. But there are advocates in your community. Here in Nogales, Rio Rico, Patagonia, Tubac, Sonoita, Elgin, all of Santa Cruz County, there are advocates that can help you through that journey and through that process. So at Mariposa Community Health Center, there are advocates there. Our program is free of charge. You do not have to be a Mariposa patient to receive services. This is for the entire community, and we're called a community-based mobile advocacy team. So you can make an appointment and come talk to an advocate. We can, meet you somewhere else. We can go anywhere throughout the county to reach people, talk to them, and help them figure out those next steps. What does it look like to go get a divorce, to file for child custody, to make a police report? Where would I go for counseling, for medical care, all these different things. If you need resources for food, utilities, if you're looking for a new place to live, all of those big things, an advocate can help you and walk with you through this journey. As well, I want to highlight the Victim Services Department of the Santa Cruz County Attorney's Office. They also have advocates on their team. They focus a lot with some of the legal aspects and people with court cases and whatnot, but they're an awesome resource. pretty much reach out to one of us. We work together, and we're gonna make sure that you or your family is getting all the resources and help that you might need. So I'm gonna give you our phone number for Mariposa, 520-375-6050. If you call that number, ask for a patient advocate. We're more than happy to talk to you, figure things out, and get you in the right direction. If you go to your doctor's appointments, or you go to the pharmacy, or to your behavioral health appointments at Mariposa, ask your providers. They're more than happy to connect you to an advocate also. Like I said, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so I want to talk about our vigil that's happening on October 23rd from 5:30 to 7. This will be at City Hall in the park in the front. And this is going to be an awesome opportunity for our community to get together to learn about domestic violence. There's going to be some resources, some tables, some guest speakers. We'll have a proclamation read. There's going to be an art component. But really, it's a great time to support those that are going through domestic violence, honor those who have survived it and have gotten out of those situations, and to honor those that have lost their lives, because we know that domestic violence has sadly ended people's lives. So it's just a really nice time to get together, to learn, to support, and to just show the community that we do not stand for domestic violence, that is not okay, that it's not normal, and it's not something that needs to be happening in our homes. So please come. We're gonna have a candlelight vigil, a silent campaign. If you have t-shirts, if you wanna bring posters, banners, anything like that, feel free to bring it. If you just wanna come learn, I mean, it's an awesome opportunity to be together. Our team, the county attorney's office, their team, and other agencies will be present. So please, please come October 23rd from 5:30 to 7. Other than that, I will let you all go and move on with your day. My name is Ryan Quick. I'm the Health and Social Services Manager at Mariposa. And just remember, you are not alone. Help is available, 520-375-6050.